days. How you guys? What's up, you looking? How you going?
Yeah, good, buddy. It's good to be back together doing this stuff again. We've had a little break.
We've had a big break. I feel like, 10 weeks at least?
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Mm.
So no, it's good to get back on here and chatting about this stuff again. So keen to get into the new one.
Ditto. How are you, Rubes?
Yeah, good, mate. I can't believe we're onto a season 3.
That too.
Yeah.
Season 3 of a podcast where 3 random dudes read stuff they have no business in understanding.
Well, you got to start somewhere, so we might as well start with the best. Speaking of the best, I am drinking some Akashi Japanese whiskey tonight. It is yummy. What are you drinking there, Lachlan?
I'm in the Young Henry's Newtowner Pale Ale. Ooh, into camera. There we go. It's pretty good.
Pale
It's
ale.
usually out of my normal buying circle, but someone was kind enough to leave it at my house, so that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised it wasn't gin, so that's good.
There you go.
How about Rubes? What'd you get?
Oh, I've got aviator gin and with a bit of tonic. So.
Oh, is that
The Ryan Reynolds one.
Ryan Reynolds one?
It is, yeah.
For those listening to the audio, Ruben held up his quality handmade copper cup there.
Yeah, I love them.
Very sure.
Where did we get those from?
The coast.
It was a winery. It was.
North.
Was it Casa Green?
Casa Green, you put Macquarie?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
the one.
that's it. Yeah, with Port Macquarie.
Yeah.
Mm.
They're lovely. The inside of them looks like the Holy Grail cup out of Indiana Jones. It's just that bright,
Exactly
glowing rose gold colour.
It is exactly
awesome.
what it
Yeah. Yeah, they're really nice. Well, season 3, we are heading back to Socrates. So this is our copy of the book. So this is the first time all three of us had the same copy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, as in the same version.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to order that exact book, but I did check the copy that I did have, and it's the same translation. So,
Oh, awesome. So yes, so what we're going to be reading from this is Apology, the death of Socrates, the death of Socrates. So it's book 2 in this book. Now, Ruben, you've read this before. I have not.
yeah.
Lachlan, have you?
No.
Okay, so Ruben, you're going to be the closest thing we have to an expert for this one.
No pressure.
So you've read it more than once?
Yeah. I've listened to it on audiobook. I've read through it at least once, and then just gone back to different parts several times.
Right.
I love it. I think it's. I think it. Well, for what it's worth, I would say that's essential reading. I think everyone should read it.
Essential reading.
Yeah.
For everyone playing along at home, it's pretty short, so it's definitely approachable if you want to, get into some Plato. That's not a hard one to tackle by the size of it, anyway.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it for that reason, in part, because I think it's good that we can read it and then discuss it. It's easier for people to listen to. They get the added bonus of not just getting to listen to 3 wolf heads, but they actually hear the whole book as well if they persevere with us. So that works well.
For sure.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I got the complete works of Plato, maybe 3 months ago, and I've been reading different parts, but I've intentionally not read this, so I have fresh eyes for this season. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. How about you, Lachlan? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, look, I know like Rubes referenced this this book a couple of times while we were doing the Republic, and just so ever since then I was sort of keen to get in and do this one. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's yeah. Anyway, we'll get into it and we'll sort of see. But I
Yeah.
haven't read it yet. I've been purposefully sort of holding back a bit, like you too, Tim. Um, I might have like read the first couple of paragraphs or something like that, and I'm gonna hold on and savor this a little bit. So, but it should be good.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, what this is going to be is the trial of Socrates, um, basically. And I'm not going to. I guess it's a spoiler, but not really because it happened like what 3,000-4,000 years ago or something. Um,
399 BC, I think it
Yeah,
was.
so
Yeah.
was that 2,400 years ago, roughly? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, Socrates gets put on trial and he loses, and then he is put to death. But he chooses basically to commit suicide. But that is basically that's the sentence. The sentence is you have to die by suicide. But it's roughly broken up into two roughly bits in that he first it records his defense. So he gives a speech about defending why he's not guilty. Then he's found guilty, and he gives another speech about what he thinks of the verdict. Because basically, the way it worked back then was when you were found guilty, you were allowed to essentially submit on what you think the sentence would be.
Oh,
So
okay.
it wasn't the case. It wasn't the case that they had like nowadays. It's like you have you commit murder and you do X amount of years, or in that range of X amount of years. Back then, it doesn't, particularly for this kind of thing, it didn't seem to work that way. Yeah. So I won't say too much more because it's really interesting what he says after he's convicted and what the outcome is. And there's a lot of discussion that can be had about that. But yeah, it's very cool. I love it.
So, one thing to kind of keep in mind too is just that this is the story according to Plato as well. So it's not exactly like a court secretary who's like recording exactly what's transpired. So this is
It's not
definitely
like
through
a
the
train.
lens of exactly, yeah, yeah. So this is through the lens of Plato, and obviously he was a student of Socrates, and
He's
so
actually mentioned. I think his Plato is actually named in
he is
speech.
from what I
He was,
saw in he was there for sure. Yeah,
yeah, so he was there, but you're right. It's not a transcript. It's his record of it, recording of it.
yeah.
So
Yeah, so it's more of an eyewitness statement of what happened.
yes
Sort
and
of,
no.
yeah. Because I saw some commentary about like Aristotle kind of throwing some shade on it. Um, that basically it's a work of fiction,
Did he go?
albeit that it has some good points.
Did he say it doesn't have the form of a hearing?
Yeah, yeah, because you got to remember that Plato loved this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's in the Socrates
Like
fan club.
it was his father and his mentor, and yeah, all
Yeah,
that sort of gear. So
Yeah. It's like the equivalent of Kobe, right?
yeah,
The amount of stuff you see about Kobe on social media now, it's like he's worshipped so much more than he used to be, and he was pretty highly worshipped before. But
yeah.
yeah, it's sort of like that. Yeah, nice. Well, for those viewing, by the way, you will notice I have a Croatia hat on. Um,
It's kind of hard to miss if you're on the video,
yeah,
guys. It's
so it's because I went to Croatia
very
as
subtle.
well as Italy and France and stuff, and I got some pretty cool uh, philosophical things over there, which I'll share over the coming weeks. Um,
Mm.
but I also got to read some Epictetus over there as well. But I didn't take Socrates or Plato, and I was like spewing once I was over there because I was like, why didn't I bring a blooming Plato book?
Yeah, but did
Uh,
you go to Greece? You didn't go to Greece.
I didn't go to Greece, but when you're sitting amongst Roman ruins, it kind of just feels like that's the place to read it. So I was like, meh. But I did get to see some other cool stuff, which I'll share later. But did you guys read much between seasons? Because I've read a lot. And I was kind of
Not so
missing the interactions we have and the regular catch ups about it.
Yeah.
My poor wife.
What? When you don't talk to us, you talk to her about philosophy? Is that how it?
Well, we were driving from Pompeii to Annecy and all that sort of stuff, like right across Europe, and she would listen to some music, and then the kids would choose some stuff, and it'd be my turn, and I'd be like, I want to listen to this talk by Jordan Peterson, or this talk by yeah Bishop Barron, and yeah, the kids would just put their headphones on and start doing their own thing. So,
So what did you read over the break then?
I read. Well, I read. I haven't got it on me. I can't recall the name of it, but I read a whole book of Epictetus. I read probably half of the Republic again on my phone, which isn't the same as holding it in a book. I had another book on Roman history just after Caesar's period, which I bought Ruben at that bookshop that we went to down south.
Yep.
But the Epictetus book has two other books in it too. So it had Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So I read that. I read a part of that while I was standing on the stairs at the top whilst looking at the statue of Marcus Aurelius on the horse in Rome. That was mad. I was like, this is awesome. I must look like such a dork. Like everyone else is there looking at the statues and everything. And I'm like, all right, I'm here. Out comes the book. Yeah.
I'll bet heaps of people do that.
I didn't see anyone else do it, but you're probably right. There's probably like one every 2 months that just comes and does it. Or a class of people in a van or something.
I'd love to hear from somebody else who's done that same thing or similar.
The one place I met someone talking about philosophy was we're walking through a national park in Croatia doing a bushwalk thing, and there was just hundreds of people everywhere. And I'm walking along, and I hear these guys talking about Marvel movies and characters from Greek mythology, and then they started talking about philosophy. Like I just heard them for like 5 or 6 minutes talking about it in English while I'm in Croatia, and then I was just like, I know what you're talking about. Mind if I join in? They're like, sure. So we just talked for like 10 minutes. It was awesome. So
That's cool.
You almost did a Socrates.
Yeah, nearly. Yeah.
Are you guys putting on lunch? Because I'm hungry.
I should have asked that question. But the only thing I think I added was that I knew of more than one character from Greek mythology in Marvel. I think that was about all I was able to add to the conversation.
Yeah, right.
That was fun.
What about you,
That's
Lachlan?
cool.
You've been hooking into anything literary wise?
No, man, because you know what the thing is when we're doing the podcast, I very specifically put away some time on Sunday morning to do some reading, right? Because I find almost any other time I'm just too damn tired to be able to read. 'Cause I get this thing where as soon as I sit down, my body goes, "Oh, okay, it's time to relax," and I'll start to fall asleep. And yeah, so I don't know. I think in the break I've just been switching to running on things a little bit earlier on the Sunday morning. So I must admit, like that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of keen to get back into the motion of this because I know I'll get back into reading a bit more. So I'll fit it back in my schedule.
Yeah, nice.
Nice. How about you, Rubes? What have you been reading?
Yeah, a bunch of stuff, but the main thing that I actually forgot to tell you guys about that I'm pretty pumped to talk about is I read a book called Utopia by Sir Thomas More, which is written like in the 1500s. But basically, what was interesting about that is it's kind of like a like early humanist version of the Republic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and like reading through it, it's clearly that's what he's doing because you know how Socrates does or Plato does the whole imaginary city as an ideal.
Mm.
Well, this bloke, Sir Thomas More, who was a Catholic British politician at a time when being Catholic was pretty dangerous, basically did a similar thing, but with a different spin, and it was fascinating to read. And it's the kind of thing that if I hadn't read the Republic first, I would have been like, I don't get it. This doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So I'm putting that on our list. We'll get to that eventually. No rush, and that's quite
What
short. Huh?
what did he do with it? So did that give him any sort of like notoriety, or was there any
Um,
sort of discussion sort of out of that in the end? Or
Yeah, apparently I don't know too much about the blowback, but it was pretty famous at the time. And like humanism was like an early movement, and humanism was in the early days. Around when they rediscovered a lot of the ancient Greek texts that had sort of
Hmm.
been either buried or forgotten about for a long time. And the humanist movement was big on going back and reading some of those classics and getting some of those ideas back into circulation. So that's why I guess that's probably partially what led to him writing that sort of thing. But it was also during a time of like extreme political turmoil in Britain. Like, I mean, Thomas More ended up getting burnt at the stake,
Yeah.
um, or executed. I don't know whether he was burnt or whether he had his head. It doesn't matter. He was killed.
What's
Um,
his last name? Can you spell it?
More M O R E or M-O-O-R-E? M-O-R-E. Thomas More.
I wonder if he is that the same Moore that they refer to with Moore College in Sydney for the Bible teaching school?
Oh, I don't know. Probably.
I'll have a look at that while you keep explaining this book. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, but it's presented in a really interesting way. Like it's a dialogue, so it's a throwback to Plato.
Hmm.
When you read it, it's not presented as fiction,
Right.
which is also a throwback to Plato. But it's a dialogue from a guy who visited this fictional place that Thomas More is setting up as the ideal state.
Right.
So that character is fictional, and he's talking about a fictional place, but it's presented as being real. And then also there's all these little subtle things in it that show you that it's not real, that it is fictional. But then what's fascinating about it is him and this other bloke actually wrote letters to each other as if they'd actually met this bloke, but he never existed. So the copy of the book I had letters that they'd written to each other about meeting this bloke who didn't exist.
Hmm.
Um, it's all like really meta, so it's very interesting. But I think I could be wrong, but my reading of that is that's just a total throwback to the whole Plato thing, where Plato's like Socrates actually said this, but then you kind of go, well, how do you know that's really what he said? How much of this is Plato and how much of this is Socrates? So they've
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
done a bit of a play on that, which is just fascinating.
Yeah, nice.
Interesting.
So I was half right. Moore College is named because of a chap called Thomas More. It's just a different Thomas More. I'm like, I think that's the dude. No, it's so it was a Thomas More who came to Sydney in the early 1800s.
All right, yeah,
So there you
different
go.
bloke. Probably named after him
Perhaps could be.
though.
So, oh, that's cool. Um,
Did you wind up finishing that 1984 thing as well, Rubes?
No, I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through it, but it's set up as different lectures and essays, so it's great. You can just pick it up and do it. But yeah, you're right. That's another fascinating one. There's some stuff in there which was really surprising because I just assumed because it's not UN, but it's they're attached to the UN, and this is in the 80s before the Berlin Wall fell. And
Do
I
you want to
just
explain to the readers at home because they won't know what we're talking about? I know you
Oh
and I
yeah,
know it
yeah.
is.
When we were in a bookshop in Katoomba in the Blue Mountains, we did an episode, but we haven't released it yet. And it was my 40th birthday, and we found Lachlan found this book, and he bought it for my birthday, so I'm having a read of it. But it's I forget what it's called, but it's essentially all of these essays from a meeting. I don't have it on me, so I can't tell you what they are. But they're an organisation who are attached to the UN. But the book is from I think 81 or 82. No, actually, sorry, it is from 84 because they're discussing Orwell's ideas of 1984. But it's really interesting. It's before the fall of the Berlin Wall, and I just assumed because it was attached to the UN, it was just going to be a bunch of globalist idiots. But what I'm finding reading that book is there was a real diversity of opinions that were presented. I don't know how influential those opinions were, but I'm finding it really interesting to read.
There you go. Good to
I
know.
imagine like a lot of that would still be pretty relevant for stuff that's going on right now. So
Oh, crazy how relevant it is. Because they're essentially the gist of the meeting that they had, where they had all these academics come, was to talk about, what were Orwell's predictions, and what's the risks, and are we getting there, and is it, what was he warning about, and are we are we heading in that direction, that sort of stuff. There was one really
yeah,
fascinating essay where one bloke was basically arguing that we are heading that way, but it's a result of globalist influences, which he acknowledged were put in place to stop nationalist influences like Germany, like things to fear, like actual totalitarian states. But he almost argued that it's inevitable that those globalist influences would take on those same characteristics, which is a risk, which I don't know, it's pretty interesting considering where we've headed since then.
Isn't that a long-winded way of saying absolute power corrupts absolutely?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming back to the other book that you were reading that you said was a bit of a knockoff from the Republic,
Yeah.
you mentioned how it's like they're going back into pulling out all these Greek writings and reading all these things. Do you think that's sort of happening again now? Like, I feel like there's a bit of a resurgence of that. There's a lot of people looking at the old Stoic writings and
Well,
that sort of
the
stuff.
humanists were like Reformation times. So I don't know if you know anything about the history from that time, which I know a little bit about, not a great deal, but there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of political turmoil, a lot of rejection of the old systems. And yeah, that's right. There was a reaching back to some of the more classic Greek and Roman literature, and I don't know, maybe it was to try to find some kind of stability. And I do think you see that now. Like that's maybe what we're doing. The three of us is doing is in a way part of that.
I
for
think so.
sure. I'd agree with that.
I remember talking about that in a different way, Ruben, a while ago about music, and I think you said, or maybe we just got there together, but I think it was you, about how when people are disenfranchised with the state of the current culture, they tend to go back to their like
The root.
paganistic music or the roots of the older tribes.
Yeah,
I reckon it's probably similar with what's going on here.
yeah. Well, that was 100% something that was happening back then, and probably happening now. Yeah, actually, interestingly, because that whole humanist and Reformation turmoil and revolution that came off the back of the printing press. Like the
Mm.
printing press is one of the things that led to or
The,
made
the
that.
Gutenberg press, or the Gutenberg Bible, and
Yeah, exactly. And now we're probably doing a very similar thing off the back of the internet.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't know. Maybe it's similar influences.
what's funny, Tim, you're talking about music there because I was listening to something the other day where they were saying how Triple J, which people outside Australia wouldn't know, it's like a national youth radio network sort of thing, is losing popularity massively. And strangely, what's taking off is what's it like 95.3, which is like the oldies station, and young people are starting to listen to all the old music again rather than rather than the new stuff. Super odd. Yeah.
I think that's funny.
Hmm.
There is
Actually,
some
my
great
wife
old
said
music
something
though.
similar to that. My wife went to an engagement party recently, and she's saying all the music was like early '90s stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, and it was an engagement for somebody who's like maybe like much younger than her, like in their 20, like 20 years younger than her. And she couldn't. She's like, hang on, why are they listening to this music? This is the music that I'm almost too old for. Like
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I think it's yeah, it's been quite funny, but I think the generations that have been sort of coming through, I don't know what that is, Gen Y, Gen Z, or whatever it is, I think have been really just sort of like grabbing on to past generation stuff and sort of carrying it forward. I don't think there's necessarily been as much sort of development of their own kind of flavor, if you know what I mean. The 90s was pretty creative, I would say. Like there was a lot of different stuff coming up that they weren't sort of riffing off previous generations quite so much.
Yeah,
It was a pretty fresh thing at the time. I don't think we really had much of that in the sort of couple of decades afterwards, but
I think part of that is because hip hop used to steal the music from other music and reappropriate
yeah,
it. And then you also had at the same time techno coming out, which was people taking samples and then messing around with that. So you had a lot of like recycle music, and I think like what hip hop artists did with that recycle music was still fresh and new most of the time. But then once you start recycling the hip hop artists that recycled, it starts getting a bit too thin.
there's so much of that on the radio at the moment.
Yeah.
It's hysterical, like my kids will have it on or something like that, and I'll hear something and go, "Oh my god, they're doing that again!" Like that's
Yeah.
done to death. That song. It's like the fourth time through the rinse.
We were in the car in France and listening to Spotify, and this was it Spotify. Anyway, oh yeah, Paul McCartney came on with "Live and Let Die." I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is so damn good. And then I remembered as a teenager playing the Guns N' Roses version for my old man and going, listen to this is awesome. And I remember him like listening to it the whole way through, and he goes, that's okay. And he goes to the garage, gets his vinyl, comes out on the and goes, listen to this one. And I remember just sitting there just going, whoa, this is way better. And I love the Guns N' Roses one, but man, that McCartney one, oh. Like,
Yeah.
if you've got a good sound system, that's some damn good music. When's the last time you listened to that?
Been a little while.
Listen to it after we finish filming tonight. It's solid. Well, I reckon we go to the pub for lots of us because we're starting to dribble. So
Yeah, we are.
let's head over to the pub for lots of us if I can. I've forgotten how to do it. Hang on. Here we go. I love that jingle that I somehow pulled together for that. It's cool. Yeah, so as you guys know, I've been traveling overseas. Saw some pretty cool things. One of the things that is kind of relevant for the philosophical stuff and the politics, I guess, is I saw the site where Caesar was killed. So it hasn't been uncovered for a long time. My understanding is they were clearing some stuff to develop the property and then uncovered something, and they're like, oh, hang on a minute, which happens in Italy, particularly Rome, all the time.
Yep.
Never try and build anything in Rome, like just never do it. Yeah. And then they realise, oh, holy crap, this is where Caesar was assassinated. Like where the old political room used to be for the Senate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't actually go into it. So where it is, like on the street, where all the cars are, it's a good like 5 to 10 meters down. So that's how they sort of unearthed it. It's sort of been built up on. But I could see everything, and I got some photos of it and stuff, and that was cool. Like being able to point to my kids and go, like that right there, that's where Caesar was stabbed over and over again. And that was awesome. The other thing that was really awesome was the Colosseum. Just going in, and they got this big cross up there for all the martyrs that got wrecked by Rome for the first couple hundred years of Christianity. And so the kids had a good look at that and walked around, and yeah, it was awesome.
When I went to Rome, I couldn't go in the Colosseum, so I only got to see it from the outside, which is a real shame.
You couldn't get tickets, or it wasn't open?
I think it was open. I think they were doing some works or something like that at the time.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. But it's still impressive building, but yeah, such a shame I couldn't get in there at the time.
We were really
Long
like
time.
really fortunate with our timing over
Hmm.
there. There were lots of places that we were there for a day and we rocked up at no organised time. Just it's 10:30. We're here. Like there was one place which was in Croatia, which used to be a emperor's holiday house, and there's this big chapel with a bell tower there. And we got there, I think, at like 10:30 in the morning, and we're like, all right, we'll pay to go in here and look into the thing, and then go upstairs and all that sort of stuff. And then when we went to get the tickets, there was a sign up saying at 1 p.m. it would be closed for the rest of the day for a wedding. And we're just like, oh, lucky we got out of bed and decided to do this first rather than doing the other things first and coming here in the afternoon. Like, we just got lucky with that several times. Just things just made it or just got back after it got opened. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like it was a pretty amazing trip.
Oh, dude, that was awesome. Loved it.
Hmm.
Um, but here you go. Here's a pub philosopher's question. If you could go to any site in the world from a philosophical interest, where would it be? Ruben, you go first.
Does it have to be actually found or exist, or can it be just like
Oh, so do you mean like Plato's actual, like the Republic?
yeah? Can I say I want to go to the room where they actually discuss the Republic? We don't know where that is, but just like
You could
what does it have
speculate that that could have happened.
to? What does it have to be an actual place that we actually know about?
Well, the dialogue. No, does anyone think that that dialogue never happened?
I don't
Uh,
think so.
I think people accept that it happened. It's just a question of how accurately it was recorded.
Well, and if it's really just like a whole bunch of separate conversations that just
Yeah,
kind of got stitched
An
together and put
amalgamated.
together.
I think you
Yeah,
could.
yeah.
I think you could ask to be there with some integrity because it seems to have happened at some level.
That's not where I go anyway. But I'm just like I'm throwing out hypotheticals. Probably want to go to uh, um, where the what do you call it? Where Caesar crossed the Rubicon, because apparently it's a bit shit. Like it's not that grand.
Oh yeah, yeah. Where he crossed wearing red.
Yeah,
Mm, that's a good spot. How about you, Lachlan?
Look, I don't know. I don't think I've got anything like sort of philosophical, so to speak. But you know, if you're dropping me in the time machine, um,
wait. Is
I'd
the
be.
time machine in this scenario?
Oh, Rob, this is what
You
I'm thinking
implied
about.
it. You implied it with the Republic room of like wanting to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 So if we're going time machine,
Oh, it's the two
yeah.
categories: time machine, no time machine.
But time machine, I want to go to ancient Egypt to the early pharaohs, just because I think that was just it's a very foundational sort of time for humanity. I think there's just a lot of stuff sort of happening. A lot of stuff. It sounds super vague, but I don't know. It's just um, that part of the world was kind of the center of a lot of what sort of ended up being Western thinking, and it's all sort of originated from a lot of it's originated from there in that time. So I think that'd be pretty fascinating to be able to not to be able to understand anything, but I don't know, maybe you could get some I don't know, just a bit of context for what the world was like then, really, rather than speculation.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Mm. But yeah, if I don't have the time machine, I don't know. I don't know where I'd drop into. What about you, Tim? I'm chickening out.
um, time machine. I'd love to go to Plato's ancestor. I think it's Solon, who met with the Egyptian record keepers, according to Plato's works about Atlantis, where they say they've got records of past cataclysmic events and that sort of stuff. I think I'd love to go and say, all right, show me those records. Let me see these things.
Yeah,
um,
cool.
How's your cuneiform translation, Tim? Is it good? You know.
Oh, I will say this: Google Translate does not work when you look at the Egyptian. What are they called?
Hieroglyphs.
Hieroglyphs. I tried it while I was in the Louvre and could not do it.
Curse me, Google. Why don't you know ancient
I know.
Egyptian?
I'm like AI. No Time Machine. I don't know. I've been to a couple of cool places now. I think I'd like to. This is not quite philosophy. I'd like to go to like a No Time Machine to where Tolkien did his work. I just thought that would be interesting.
Oh yeah, there's a bar. It's still there. Yeah, where the Inkling.
That would be good. Because yeah, I've already been to like the Pantheons and other things over in Greece and Italy, so I kind of tick those.
Yeah,
off.
apparently you can still go to the bar where him and C.S. Lewis used to hang out.
Yeah, so that'd be cool. I dig that.
Yeah, that I'd have to go like Jerusalem in the Crusades, maybe.
That would be interesting.
Mm.
I would
Depending on
pretend
which
since I have a beard.
What the week is.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a pretty cool time. You could verify if the Templars successfully stole the gold from under the Jewish temple, which the Romans never found when they destroyed the temple, which I think they did find.
Yeah.
Which explains how they went from almost a dozen guys who didn't even have a horse each to as equally rich as the King of France.
Well, that other book I was reading, which I still haven't finished that one, so I feel bad about it, was kind of talking about exactly that, Tim.
Yep.
That's called the Hiram Key, I think it was called, the book.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're trying to track that down, along with the beginnings of Freemasonry, because I was sort of saying it's intertwined. So,
yeah,
interesting.
It is very interesting. Maybe we should do a season on some of those things that we're all interested in. That would be fun.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, coming back to the book, I'm super pumped to read this. For those listening, we hope that you are going to join us for the journey, reading some more Plato. It's always fun. And gentlemen, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Oh, see you next week. We'll get into it.
All right, guys.
All right, peace out. Bye.
See you later.